It's a great honor to introduce Moshe and Itta Shedletzky. What is absolutely unbelievable is that your family came from Shedletz and you married
a Shedletzky.
Which is, it's just lo yuman, it's unbelievable. And this is the book, the Pit and the Trap, about your family, Moshe.
Exactly. In the Shoah.
In the Shoah. And if you could just read a little bit about the book and then to translate.
It's from the book Bedamai Chai, which is a citation from Hanavi Yecheskel, or from the Haggadah Shel Pesach and Yecheskel, I think, Leib Rochman. And this is the end of the book. Va'achen hala tza'adnu hayinu ayefim uretzutzim ani chashti atzmi le'e v'chole נמשכנו אל מיטה, אף על פי שהחמה עמדה כבר במרום הרקיע, כבר היה לאחרי צהרי היום. נדמה היה לנו שאיילת השחר עולה ומנץ היום. ראינו אלוהים פנים אל פנים. ונחי הלכנו לעומת העיר, בין שדות ירוקים, מאחורינו ליל שחור, ליל מחשכים, צעדנו קדימה אל הבלתי ידוע. It has to be ליל שחור, ליל מחשכים, צעדנו קדימה אל הבלתי ידוע.
Nitz, if you could just translate for our listeners.
And so we walked on. We were tired and crushed. I felt myself tired and sick. We were longing for a bed, although the sun was about to rise in the height of the sky, of heaven actually. It was already after the middle of the day, and it looked to us as if a dawn was just growing and going up into the day. We saw God from face to face, and we rested. We went in the direction of the town, between green fields. Behind us a black night, a night of darkness. We went forward into the unknown.
It's amazing.
We saw God face to face and we lived. That is exactly.
And we lived, excuse me.
That is the main point.
We saw God face to face, Vanechi, and we lived. And we lived.
And this is the story of
my parents,
of the
uncle,
being hidden in different impossible places and saved.
And were the righteous Gentiles that helped out your parents?
Yes,
There was Polish, a sister and a brother. She was a madam.
I told you.
You told.
No, but you can.
And they died many times.
But your parents helped them.
Exactly.
His mother had the woman couldn't even write. She was an analphabet, and she dictated letters to some neighbor or someone. Her brother was killed because he had been caught as a thief.
Gestapo came and killed him.
They called her Chotke. Chotke is like aunt, or it's like
Doda.
Doda,
Like
yes,
aunt.
Aunt Chotke. And she was sick, and his parents, who didn't have much, they used to send her all kinds of medicines and dollars to make her life easier. They used to send them to Poland and you have the letters.
And when the Gestapo came, he could have actually informed on your parents that they were hiding, and they could have saved his life.
Exactly, you are right. And he didn't do so.
And he was killed.
He
Yeah.
was killed.
They
But he
took him
could- he
away
could have-
as a thief because he had.
But he
He
could have
said
said, I've got something to
only-
show you.
He
Yeah.
said only goodbye to no one. He knew that
to a wall.
to a wall because they were
Behind the wall.
behind that wall. And the whole story is why they were religious Christians, and they saw what happened.
They were
And they
believing.
couldn't stand it. She was a madam, and he was a thief.
And what was their name?
Felek,
Felek,
and her name only. What was her name?
they called her Felkova, but it is not, I don't know exactly.
And which part was this in
Was not far from Warsaw. Not far from Minsk,
Minsk,
Mazowiecki.
Mazowiecki.
From the little town they came from, which is half an hour from with a car
Warsaw,
from
Warsaw.
Warsaw.
and was she ever given, or her brother Chasidei Umot Olam?
I don't know. This you have
My
to ask.
father tried it in Yad Vashem, but I don't know exactly what was the procedure. So, and then they died, and it was not.
Maybe
I don't-
Rivka knows. I don't know.
Maybe Rivka knows.
But you know, by writing the book and by relating the story, their memories are alive, and they.
You are right, but
He
I
was-
don't ask my father.
You didn't ask.
I didn't ask my father, so I don't know exactly why is it so. What is the real situation?
But your father had enough connections. I mean, he was a known Yiddishist, a journalist
And-
at the
but
radio, so
the thing is that he's not among Chasidei Umot Olam, and I don't know exactly.
They had very
why.
specific. Did your parents speak to you about the Shoah
only.
when you were growing up?
I'm what is called second generation, and my father and mother told me stories when I was exactly a little boy. So I
He-
ate, but
Instead of fairy tales, he heard the stories of his parents, which is, and here I want to say something. My mother-in-law wanted our daughters to read the book because and I said to her, I don't want them to read this book when they are young. If they are older, they can read it. If they decide, I don't want, because I saw it was too much, you know.
Too traumatic.
It was too traumatic, and it was like
traumatic,
telling
exactly.
story to a child. A fairy tale is a fairy tale, and the real story is also a fairy. So there is, you know, the child doesn't make, so it's and you told the story. This also show the problem. Your parents once went to the theater, to some play. You don't remember what play, but in the play there are old parents who are eating from a bowl on the floor, like they are left alone and they are neglected. And Moshe, when they were in the theater, he was thinking, and he was always thinking of them, you know, like with lots of love and so. And when they came home, so his father said, when we are going to be old, you also do this to us, or something like that, you know, like being traumatized himself and traumatizing the child. There are these moments that are quite cruel.
It is a story, another story.
But Moshe, can I ask, looking back, would you have preferred if your parents would have not told you when you were growing up?
No. I prefer the situation that it was. My parents couldn't in another way behave. They told what they have in themselves. And it is natural, and
the house was full of books about the Shoah, and his father was really promoting the writers who wrote about the Shoah. He wrote about the book. He was really a figure who was, and I found out to my joy that he is a known figure because of this time in Lodz, and as a journalist and as someone who was a central figure also promoting the work of the Yiddish authors who wrote about the Shoah. This was he saw this as his task, you know.
To perpetuate the memory as well.
Yes.
We should never forget. We should never.
Yes. To do this was his way of, and his library. When his mother died a few years ago, my mother-in-law, I had the idea that I have a colleague in Bar Ilan, Nati Cohen, whose wife, when we lived in Jerusalem, we made gymnastics together, and she came one day and she said, my husband asked if you have something to do with Itta Shedletzky, and I said, yes, he's my father-in-law. And he was my father-in-law. I think then he wasn't alive anymore. And when he died, we took all the books of his library, the important books and all the periodicals of Yiddish, and he made a special room in Bar Ilan, a seminar room where the Yiddish students teach. So he booked, and there is a placard remembering Itta Shedletzky. So this, at least, the books are there, the books he collected, and he wrote about them in the newspapers, and he also, the house was always, they always came to his house, to the house of Rochman, and some of them were in Paris, some of them were in America, and part of them were here in Israel. So he also had very close connections with Sutzkever, and he also was, he contributed a lot and worked behind the wall.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scene, he worked for the Golden Agate, which is one, the Golden Chain, which is one of the important Yiddish periodicals edited here in Israel. So that was his life work, besides the radio, and so he was the whole life. And my mother-in-law, she read all these books also. She used to read all the stories about it. They wanted to know more. They lived it like.
And Moshe, did you read a lot growing up about the Shoah? Were you very involved in?
No, he read about music.
I chose to be a musician. One reason for that is because I have in myself so the stories, and so I prefer something else, to be
beyond
a
words.
musician.
And can I ask, your children, are they involved in the Shoah? Do they have it's hard to say, but do they have a special connection? Do they read about the Shoah? Do they ask you questions?
They're too
busy in life.
No. They are no. Don't. It's two reactions. Our older daughter Chaya, she has the name of the older sister of my mother-in-law and Esther Rochman, and she was pregnant when they had this camp. She was in the 9th month, and there was a, how do you call it, a mifkad,
Appel.
no, mifkad. You know, they had to stand up every day and they looked at everyone. And they saw this pregnant woman, and one of the soldiers shot her, and they stood there and they couldn't move, otherwise he would have shot them too. And they saw the baby moving, and this woman was called Chaya. And we gave the name Chaya to our daughter because we thought it was the first. Rivka Miriam had a daughter, but everybody thought she would give the name, but she gave the name Abigail. Her daughter is half a year older than our daughter. So we decided, for me it was clear, but at a certain time she found it was like a big bag on her back. You know, she knew the story, but she's a very, very creative person. She has written some posts. She's dealing with it in this way. And the other daughter, the younger one, is the opposite. She never wanted to go to Poland in 11th grade like everybody. And Racheli, she went. Racheli, she's called after my grandmother. So she went to Poland, and she was like, she wanted to identify 100% with the parents. She was in Treblinka, and she went from Warsaw with her teacher to Minsk Mazowiecki to make a picture of the church behind the house and of the bridge, according to what her grandmother told her. And then she came back and she showed it to her, and my mother-in-law didn't understand what she thought, like, the Shoah is hers, and what does this child, she didn't get the response. It's like the young girl was there and she was and I told her, you know, you can't be there. You weren't, thank God you weren't there. And you've seen, and your grandmother, she is wrapped up in her world, and you don't belong to this world. So we had a talk, and she is a psychologist, you know, not Lostam. And I had an experience with my mother-in-law also, when they were talking on Shabbat at the table, and she told me something, and I felt she wants me to identify and to be with her. And I asked her, do you want me, would you have liked that would you want me to be in the Shoah? And she said, no, God be, said, but you actually really want, but I can't. I have a distance. I opened it up because I couldn't bear it. I felt she wants me to understand her 100 and some percent, to be with her and identify. And then I saw this with my daughter, and I told, and she also thought she must. But you have to understand, it also has to do, because between the two girls I lost a child, so this is also in the air, you know. So
have you ever gone back to Poland?
No.
Would you ever go back or not? It's too traumatic.
Mm-hmm. We also didn't go to Dachau when we were in Munich a lot of times. I told him, you don't have to go there, you are there all the time.
I was there half a year ago.
Mm-hmm. I even lived, when I taught in Augsburg for a semester, I lived in Munich at the Dachauer Straße. And he said, I said, Moshe, you don't have to go there.
Did you go?
I didn't go. I went to Wannsee, to the Wannsee house. This was one of the... You also
went together?
There I was once alone, but then we were also together at the Wannsee house. And this is one of the most horrible experiences, because you have all the pictures and you have these sites, and you imagine these people deciding at the breakfast with champagne and all the best things.
The fate
of the people. Yeah, it was horrifying.
So can I ask both of you, what message would you give to your grandchildren or to the next generation? How you both are, basically you were born in the Shoah, you were second generation, your parents lived it, you lived it as a child.
Try to be a good person and take responsibility and enjoy life, you know, and live your life as meaningful as you can.
I will say it in Hebrew. דע מאיפה באת ולאן אתה הולך.
Know where you came from and where you're going.
Go to, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That is something very special. It's true. If you don't know where you've come from and you don't know your history,
Yes.
and to know where you want to go to.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So again, could I just come in and just thank you both, because I'm so extremely grateful.
Now you take him.
No, you
עכשיו אני רק רציתי להגיד ככה, העניין של השואה והאחות והסיפור צריך להיות לא bits and pieces. זה צריך להיות משהו הרבה יותר מרוכז ולעניין ובלי לגמגם. למשל, הייתי צריך להגיד לך, ונחי, הנקודה היא ונחיה, זה כל הנקודה. ראינו, משה אומר על אלוהים, ראיתי אלוהים.
Itta, could you maybe just translate, because what you said is very, very
ראינו אלוהים פנים אל פנים.
You saw Hashem's face.
הוא אומר משה רבינו כשראה את אלוהים. נו, ואז הספר מסתיים ככה.
Well, Moshe.
But also I would say the message here is we go into the unknown, but we have to be straight.
Yes.
We have to get to know what is unknown. We have to know, you know, what is unknown. We never know what is going to be tomorrow, but we have to be. It's a question of being conscious of what you're doing and why you are doing, and I think.
וזה גם להגיד יהודי, למרות שאני לא רוצה להשתמש במילה. מאיפה באת ולאן אתה הולך כיהודי? אלוהים זה לא השכן מלמעלה, אלוהים הוא פה.
God is with all, inside.
כן, אין לו צורה ואין לו דמות ואין לו כלום, אבל הוא פה. זהו, לכן אמרתי, דע מאיפה, מאין באת. והעבר היהודי הוא אומר לנו משהו.
Well, I want to thank you both from the bottom of my heart, really, and I'm so grateful. And I know it was hard for you, Moshe, and it's very hard. And Itta, thank you so much. You are both just ein milim. There's just no words. I'm so extremely grateful. We all are. And you know, you have such a wonderful way. I think how you've handled such an incredibly difficult such an issue that it's just unbelievable. And I'm sure your daughters must be so proud, and your parents above are very proud.
אתה יודע, אני לא דתי, אבל כל ערב, בלי המצלמה, כל ערב וכל בוקר אני מודה. אני לא דתי, אין לי תפילה לזה, אין לי כלום. כל ההוויה שלי מודה.
Maybe if you can sit next to Moshe. No, Moshe, you know what? The truth is, he said, I'm not religious, but you are very religious, because that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. That's what Hashem wants. Yeah. Wow, that is so beautiful. Sure. Wow, that is so beautiful. Sure.
My parents.
Yeah, and that's it.
Oh, can I just? That's your parents.
That's at the wedding of his sister, I think. Yeah, and his youngest, he has a brother and a sister.
Okay. Wow. That's lovely, sure.
These are the two daughters.
Oh, that's really lovely.
This we get every year for Rosh Hashanah. We get such a
calendar. That is so nice, sure.
Yeah, you don't have to, just to show you.
But it's lovely.
The Naches. This is the eldest daughter of Racheli. She has the red hair I had once, and my mother had. And this is Yuval, the middle son of my daughter Chaya. I didn't tell you. This is Racheli, and this is Chaya.
That's lovely.
And they're 5 years apart. And this is Libby and Yuval. And this is Yael, the oldest daughter of Chaya. And this is Abigail, the youngest daughter of she is now 11 and she is 4.
Wow.
So you see, we are blessed.
You're very blessed. Very
Yes.
blessed.
So here I have,
Wow.
yes, this is the Naches.
This is the Naches, and this is
Di Procente.
Yeah.
oh, that's so beautiful. And I'm sure there was always a lot of music in your home, and you transmitted that music. And music is music of the soul.
Yeah.
Exactly, music of the soul. Punkt.
Wow. So you should
Okay.
just have Naches and Mazel
Thank
and
you.
Brocha,
You too, you
which you
too.
so
When will
deserve.
you
Thank
tell
you
your
very
stories?
much. So
A little
deserve.
bit, I look up your movie.
All the very best. I just want to thank you both. Really, just Mazel Brocha and all of Hashem's
Thank you.
blessings.
You are welcome.
Let us know a little bit about the book that's written.
Okay. Leib Rochman, 1918 to 1978, was born in Minsk, Mazowiecki, some 25 miles from Warsaw. As a young man, he was close to Porisover Hasidim and studied in the Amudei Torah yeshiva in Warsaw. Prior to the war, he was a journalist for the Warsaw Yiddish Press. The Germans occupied Minsk Mazowiecki on 13 September 1939 and established a ghetto there on October 1940. Rochman was married in the ghetto shortly before escaping its final liquidation. While still in hiding, he began to keep a record of his experience, which he completed in Switzerland soon after the war. It was published in Paris under the title "And in Your Blood Shall You Live," and won the Hofer Leib Prize award by the World Congress of Jewish Culture in 1940? It couldn't be. 1949, excuse me. Everything contained in this harrowing chronicle actually happened, except for Freumann, who now lives in the USA. All those who hid together with the author settled in Israel after the war. Itta Konyak, the 16-year-old boy from Kalushin, was killed fighting in the War of Independence. Rochman's daughter Rivka Miriam is a noted artist and Hebrew poet. His son Yehoshua is a concert violinist.
Wow.
There is nothing said about Moshe's family, but this is okay.
But Moshe's family is inside the book as well.
They are inside.
Sure.
Ephraim and Tzipora,
Mhm.
these are his parents, yeah.
And on the cover of this book, this is
This is Rochman and Esther, his wife. Leib Rochman and Esther. Finkelstein Rochman.
Thank you, Itta. Thank you so much.